admitting this into evidence as corroborating evidence, even though that is still hearsay, he's testified to this, then the email should be limited to those two communications, which the rest could easily be redacted from that. Other than those two indications, the substance of the entire email correspondence is really Parker Schenecker's observations, his assessment, hearsay testimony from him, because his statements in this email are hearsay. And then on top of that, it's his conversations or his summary of conversation or conclusions from conversations that he had with his children, his opinion about what is the best therapy method or the best therapist in order to do family counseling. And there's no exception under the hearsay rule for the admission of any of that type of testimony or evidence in this case.
Well, the state disagrees.
Well, y'all hand me another copy of this.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't need it in front of me. You know, you're talking about 3 pages.
I got it. Well, do you have the numbers down there? Pages 6 to 8. 6 to 8. Yes. 6, 7, 8. Give me a moment to look at it once again. All right. I've read it now in its entirety. State. Your Honor, the defendant first opened the door to all of these subjects in direct examination when she spoke about his requiring her to go into rehab, his not allowing her to drive after rehab, and he specifically was asked about Bo's fear of driving with mom. after, at this time. Also, this is all admissible because it's under 803.3, then existing mental, emotional, or physical condition, and I quote for the record, a statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, or physical sensation, including a statement of intent, plan, motive, design, mental feeling, pain, or bodily health when such evidence is offered to, subparagraph 2, prove or explain acts or subsequent conduct of the declarant. This is all an explanation on topics that were opened by the defendant on direct, and explains this witness's subsequent conduct, his decisions, and his course of conduct insofar as pursuing counseling, prohibiting her from driving, trying to obtain a release so he can continue to get information or try to get information. It's squarely on 803.3, I suggest, Your Honor, and all of it should be admitted. And there is no reason to exclude the defendant's statement on this because it is an admission under 803.18. And those statements made by the kids about precluding them from are again state of mind. Those statements are offered for the effect on this declarant's state of mind, not to the truth of the matter asserted, even though that's already come out anyway that they were afraid or frightened of her driving. So for all those reasons, the state suggests that anything and everything in this exhibit, States 100, is admissible and should be admitted. Thank you.
Any final comment?
Judge, this witness's state of mind is not an issue in this case. My client's state of mind is an issue in this case. As far as him being able to explain the reasons why he made decisions, he's able to explain that as far as his testimony goes. These statements made to my client...
Hasn't that been challenged?
Your Honor,
I'm asking.
when you're saying challenge, I've called him. He's on direct. He's not on cross-examination. I'm bringing out the facts of the case and the treatment that was done and what participation he had in the treatment. That's the same thing that the state is bringing out as well. His observations, his conclusions, and specifically his conversations with other people that are not witnesses in this case are clearly hearsay and inadmissible for any reason. All the time we have witnesses that are able to get on the stand and testify as to what their observations are, what their actions are. Their statements outside of court or their emails or letters outside of court are inadmissible.
Final comment.
Judge, this declarant's state of mind does not have to be an issue in the action under this part of the exception of 803.3. Under the prior paragraph, yes, but not when it's to prove his subsequent conduct, decisions, etc., etc.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I've listened to you very carefully. This is important. It deserved the analysis, your opportunity to talk with each other, to go over it, to present the law to the court. State's analysis under 803.3, as well as its mention of 803.18 with the remainder of the content is well taken. The objection is going to be overruled. It will be admitted when offered. Have you offered that?
Yes, I did offer it, sir.
Okay. That'll be received over objection. You can take this back. All right, anything before we bring the jury back in?
No, sir.
Bring the jury in.
officers entering the courtroom.
And everyone can be seated. Counsel, you can make it.
Thank you. Mr. Schenecker, I'm giving you Stacy Exhibit number 100. Starting from the back page, sir, on December 3rd at 2010 at 14:56 hours, would that be 2:56 p.m.?
Yes, sir, it would be.
Did you write the defendant Julie Schenecker? I'm sorry, I skipped one. On Friday, December 3rd at 2010 at 10:21 hours, what did you write to the defendant?
I wrote to the defendant, please consider, PLS, please consider executing a release for Dr. Obregon to speak with me, VR Parker.
What does VR?
Very respectfully is the way we say it in the Army.
Okay. Does this sequence of emails show her response to your request?
Yes, sir.
And at what date and time did she respond?
December 3rd, 2010 at 14:56, which would be 2:56 p.m.
The same day you sent the message?
Yes, sir.
And what did she write?
Hell no, exclamation point. Sorry about your luck, period. VR Julie.
Did you respond to that email on that same day?
Yes, sir, I did.
At what time?
At 1600, which would be 4 p.m.
What did you write to him?
I wrote, obviously, that's your prerogative, and I respect your space on this. I think if you asked him, he'd say he would like to, and that it would be helpful. He would help with some ideas on how to improve things while keeping your private issues private. I trust that you know the right thing to do here. However, I believe it's critical for us, in parentheses, all four of us, to get into family counseling immediately. Since you feel ganged up on, this situation will quickly spin out of control without it, ellipses, or at a minimum, result in a bunch of emails like below. I ask you to get with Beth immediately to get us in with her. At a minimum, it needs to be you and me. She's got the best view of what's going on. Calix's counselor does not. VR Parker.
And on that same date, did the defendant respond to that last email?
Yes, sir, she did.
What time?
At,
I'm sorry, was it that date or another date?
it was Monday, December 6th, so 3 days later at 11:35 a.m.
What did the defendant write to you?
That's what rehab was all about, ... figuring out what my plan for success is. My next appointment with Beth Marsh is at 10:30 on the 14th of December. Don't know how it will go, ... She could really be pissed off at me or compassionate. Don't want to have the kids see her unless she is understanding. Open parentheses, Calix is too pissed at me. I'm sure Beth would try to address her anger.
Excuse me, Mr. Schenecker, I think there was a phrase within the parentheses that you, right after Calix is too pissed at me?
Parentheses, Calix is too pissed at me. The parentheses are never closed.
Is there worse than before the accident?
No, sir, not in this.
Okay, please continue.
Yes, sir. Calix is too pissed at me. No close of parentheses. I'm sure Beth would try to address her anger, but I don't want to bring the kids until the next time I see her. I'm seeing her on the 14th. I made another appointment on the 16th at 4 p.m. You all can come to the second appointment on the 16th at 4 p.m. Calix will have to miss practice and we'll have to get Bo out of school at 3:45. Hope that is satisfactory to you. no again for release of records. ...
Okay, and then do you have a final response, sir?
I do, sir, and that was written December 6th at 14:05, which would be 2:05 p.m.
And what did you write to her?
I said in my email that I trusted that you know the best way ahead with Dr. Obregon, in parentheses, and my release request, close parentheses. I'm good with your decision not to sign a release, and I always respect your privacy with your docs. In fact, I have never communicated with any of your other docs, in parentheses, except Dr. Spear, who asked that I come in periodically to review what was going on, close parentheses. Okay on the family counseling, I understand and support you. A session for you alone with Beth first, I think that's a prudent and necessary decision. We will plan to be there on the 16th December then. Just so you know, although she hasn't called me yet, Calix's counselor apparently told Calix last week that she was going to call me and recommend family counseling, ... My recommendation to do this was not tied to her counselor, as the counselor still hasn't called me on this. Seems to me like this is a good time to start the family counseling. Maybe I was wrong when I recommended to you that you not come back in and apologize and ask for forgiveness on day one, but I don't think so. What the kids need, in parentheses, and deserve are all caps actions, comma, not words. And your recent actions, in parentheses, staying in bed all day and pretty much refusing to reassimilate until Nan leaves, close parentheses, are completely counter to what they are expecting and are bringing about their continued disappointment in and disdain for you. Therefore, my comment a few nights ago about you, quote, sealing your fate, quote, with the kids. You're losing your connection with them regardless of how much I try to help them rationalize the situation. Therefore, my recommendation on family counseling. They cannot expect overnight change in you. Your expectation of overnight change in them is similarly untenable. I look forward to the family counseling session with Beth on 16 December. I think she's probably got the better insight of the two counselors, but I could be wrong. I do like her, quote, upfront approach, kind of like the Dr. Phil style. I trust that she will hold, in all caps, us all to task, me included. That being said, if you think Calix's counselor would be a better choice, I'm willing to discuss it with you. We will forge a way ahead with or without your participation. The kids are seeing that there's not much change in you, and although I try hard to temper their expectations, in parentheses, as no one can completely change overnight or in a 2-week period, close parentheses, they expected that you'd at least be participative. While I understand your logic, in parentheses, I don't agree with it, but I understand what you're saying, close parentheses, they won't get that you're, quote, waiting for Nan to leave, end quote, to get involved. They will never see the correlation between the two. What they do see is their mom in bed all day, and in their mind, she's choosing to do that instead of being involved in their lives. It's cut and dry with them. The nuance is completely lost on them. And blaming this on my decision that you no longer drive the kids is misplaced. On driving, I implore you to understand this, and I'm putting it in writing here unemotionally so you can reflect on it. The kids have asked me to preclude you from driving them anymore. The kids are asking this of me because they still don't feel safe with you driving, not because they're mad at you. This has nothing to do with driving while impaired, as you have stated that you're not drinking anymore. I must, in all caps, protect them. They are telling me that they feel unsafe. This is the basic responsibility of a parent, especially a father. There is no way in the world that I can just let this go. They've asked their father for protection, in parentheses. The hard part of this is that they've asked for protection from their mother, close parentheses. I know it may be hard for you to understand or accept, but if I have to suffer your wrath and disappointment in order to meet this need for them, I will. It's cut and dry for me on this issue. Thanks for, quote unquote, listening. Love, P.
And does this email accurately reflect your state of mind on the issues of counseling, the defendant's driving, and the request for release of information you made or
HIPAA release accurately reflect your state of mind at that time?
Yes, sir.
You left for the Middle East on what day in January of 2011?
19 January, sir.
Okay. And what was your habit while you were traveling within the Middle East as far as communicating to your family and friends about your continued safety?
Yes, sir. So my routine was, I actually had no email or phone while I was actually flying. Once I got to my first point of debarkation, which would have been Qatar, Qatar, I normally sent an email when I got a signal to the defendant, to my kids, to my mom, my brother, and a couple other friends that just said I was safe. I would say in Q, so in Qatar, which meant I'd arrived where I was intended to go.
Now, as a country in the Middle East, that is several time zones to the east of Florida, which is in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know from your experience how much difference in time there is or was in January of 2011 between Florida's Eastern Standard Time and time in Qatar?
So I believe it was 9.5 hours.
Did you on didn't you on 1:36 a.m. Qatar time on January 28th, Friday, send such an email indicating to your wife at the time, Julie Schenecker, indicating that you were safe in Q?
Sir, I believe I sent an email saying basically that I was back from Afghanistan and I was safe back in Qatar. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so 1:36 a.m. Qatar time would be approximately what time in Florida, if you subtract 9.5 hours?
Is that 4 p.m.?
Okay. Did you receive a response later? Well, excuse me. Specifically, the email that you indicated you'd sent to your wife that you were safe in Qatar at 1:30 a.m. Friday would have been sent at the equivalent of 4 p.m. on Thursday, the 27th.
Yes, sir, that's right. Qatar's a day ahead at that time. Okay. Yes, sir.
So, did you get a response email which was dated that same Thursday at 19:33 or 7:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from your wife?
Yes, sir, I believe so. It'd be helpful to see it, to remember the times.
I'll show you what's been marked for identification. The state's exhibit number 94. First, do you recognize this email exchange?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you recognize that email exchange as being between yourself and your wife in the fashion you've just described? a few moments ago?
Yes, sir. This is me alerting them that I'm back in gutter from Afghanistan and getting a response from the defendant.
And is the defendant's response recorded on that document?
It is for January 27th, 1933 hours, which would be 7:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, move States 94 into evidence.
No objection.
Proceed without objection.
And at 7:33 p.m., oh, excuse me, were you familiar with the, well, excuse me, let me ask you this. Isn't the fact that back in January at that time, Bo's Schenecker's soccer practice started at 7 p.m.?
Yes, sir. His practices were routinely 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay. And so at 9 or 7:30 p.m. on that date, or 33 minutes after the practice should have started, you received this email?
The email was written, yes, sir.
And what did your wife at the time write to you?
She wrote, "Get home soon. We're waiting for you!" exclamation point.
Thank you. Nothing further. May we approach on a clarification?
Yep. Redirect, counsel.
Mr. Schenecker, when Mr. Pruner was talking to you about the photographs that I showed you, you indicated that that was before there were issues with drugs and alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you become aware of there being any issues with prescription medication?
First heard from me was when the defendant was in rehab at Winmore.
Okay. So when, was that during the intake?
I don't believe so, ma'am. I think I got that actually from the defendant herself.
Okay. So at some point while Ms. Schenecker is being treated at Winmore, you become aware from her about pills?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when When she was at Winmore, you were there for the intake procedure?
For most of it, ma'am.
Okay, and you were able to visit her there?
During the intake?
No, you were able to visit her at Winmore?
Yes, ma'am, during her stay, yes, ma'am.
Did you participate in any counseling at Winmore with Ms. Schenecker?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did she stay for the duration of the treatment there?
I had gotten 28 days cleared for her in the facility through the
insurance, you
through the
mean?
health insurance.
Okay,
And so I don't know if she finished the program because I'm not even sure exactly how long it was.
okay.
I just got a call from Dr. Butler, her treating physician, said, you can come get her.
Okay, so the doctor called and told you to come and get her.
Called me that day before Thanksgiving that I talked about.
And I believe you testified on cross that there were times when Ms. Schenecker called you and asked you to come and get her early.
No, ma'am, she actually said that in face-to-face
Okay. Asking you
at
to take-
Winmore. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you didn't do that?
I did not. She was 4 days into treatment.
When her treatment was complete and you got the phone call from Dr. Butler, you were not in town at that time?
No, ma'am, I was 7 hours away.
Okay. And so when the doctor called you, did you make the doctor aware of that you were not in town?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did someone else pick her up from treatment?
Not that I know of, ma'am.
Okay, so she waited there while you had the Thanksgiving break and then she picked you up? I mean, you picked her up, I'm sorry, on Sunday.
On Sunday after Thanksgiving, yes, ma'am.
That Sunday that was after Thanksgiving, Your Honor, if I may approach?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you the calendar. November of 2010. Do you remember what day it was that you picked her up?
My recollection was Sunday, the 28th of November, ma'am.
Do you remember when she started the program?
I have to do this a little bit chronologically to make sure I'm there. So my understanding is the wreck happened on the 8th, and it was about a day and a half till we could find a place for a bed for her, and the intake should have been on the 10th.
And when you initially started talking to Dr. Obregon and emailing him, was part of that conversation about referrals for insurance purposes to cover her treatment?
Yes, ma'am, that was part of it.
And the other part of it was you relaying the information that you observed?
Yes, ma'am, and wanting to get some ideas on how to reassimilate her in the house.
So even though there was not a HIPAA waiver, you had your observations of what was going on with Ms. Schenecker?
Yes, ma'am.
You were able to see her, were you able to see her every day? When you're not traveling?
Is this in Winmore?
No, during the fall time, summer of 2010 up until January.
Oh, yes, ma'am, sure. When I
Okay,
wasn't traveling, I was home every night, and we would have dinner, or we'd be together at soccer games or track meets. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're able to see her medication that's in the bathroom?
Sure, if there was some meds out on a drain board, sure.
Did she hide her medication from you?
No, ma'am.
And the alcohol that was in the home, I believe, what you testified to is that you didn't notice more alcohol coming or going.
What I testified to is I didn't notice more alcohol coming and going after she got home from Winmore.
Okay. And before then, you'd be able to see if there was more alcohol coming and going. Was that something that you'd be able to see?
I noticed that she was, my observation was that she was drinking more than usual.
So although there wasn't a HIPAA waiver, you were still able to relay information to Dr. Obregon?
Yes, ma'am. There's no prevention of me communicating my thoughts to him.
Did Dr. Obregon at any time convey to you that he didn't want your information?
No, ma'am.
Before November of 2010, had you ever emailed the doctor with your observations before?
I may have communicated with Dr. Spear when she was at NIMH because we couldn't get a phone call all the time. I don't recall any other times communicating with the docs.
Other than the marriage counseling that you were talking about in Maryland, Do you remember having any counseling that you were participating in Tampa when you moved here?
No, ma'am, I don't remember any family counseling when we got here.
When Ms. Schenecker had the accident and you had the conversation with her about going to rehab, did she go?
Yes, ma'am, she went.
And when she asked you to come and pick her up early and you didn't, was she able to leave the program?
You talking about the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
I don't know if she had the authority to leave or not. Dr. Butler just said, I know that you're not there, I won't release her.
Okay. And you were the one that picked her up on that Sunday?
Just me, yes, ma'am.
The gambling, was that ever something that you were aware of prior to January of 2011?
No, ma'am.
Who was controlling the finances?
Julie was managing the day-to-day pieces of the finances. Again, that was something I did to keep her active in our life together. So she was actively managing them, but I had opportunity to see it all online as well.
When you were talking about Ms. Schenecker being upset about you not picking her up from the rehab that Wednesday, had Ms. Schenecker ever missed a family holiday before?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
I actively remember there were many, maybe 5 or 6. The one I remember most vividly was when we were in the Virginia area. Maybe we were in Maryland. We were supposed to take a trip to the Caymans. It was my family, my extended family, a good friend of mine and his wife. And the morning of, we were supposed to get on a plane and go. Julie said, I just don't feel like going. So the 3 of us packed up and got on the plane and left.
Was that a Thanksgiving holiday?
No, ma'am. It was a family vacation. It was a family holiday.
Okay. Had she ever missed any Thanksgivings before?
Oh. Not that I can recall, ma'am.
Did she ever miss a Christmas?
I don't think we did holidays separate from each other.
When you were talking about the accident on cross-examination, Ms. Schenecker indicated to you that when she got into the accident, she was on her way to AA.
That's what she told me, ma'am.
Was that something that you had discussed with her prior to that day?
Going to AA?
Yes.
At some point, we had had a discussion about that being part of her plan,
Okay.
her sobriety plan.
Did you make any demands of her at that time to go to AA?
I did not, ma'am. She said she was going. Her plan was to go. As far as I knew she was going, she had actually asked a couple of times to have the car back from carpooling time for my mom so she could go to an AA meeting.
The email communication that you had with Ms. Schenecker about the HIPAA waiver, did you indicate to her that you were good with her decision not to sign a release?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did you tell her during the email that driving the kids, your preclusion of her driving the kids had nothing to do with driving with impaired?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Did you indicate to the children, to Ms. Schenecker, that the decision to preclude her from driving the children, you indicate this has nothing to do with driving while impaired, as you have stated that you're not drinking anymore.
Yes, ma'am, I did say that.
Okay, so it wasn't just the drinking or your concern over the drinking, your indication in this email is that there's something more than that.
Yes, ma'am, my intent was to communicate that the kids had actually said to me that they didn't feel safe driving with her. So it wasn't an issue of just the alcohol, but I was letting her know that she was not driving the kids.
Okay. Did she ever drive the children when you told her not to drive the children?
As in defiance to me, not that I know of, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were talking to her in the email about engaging in family counseling, was that something that you all ended up participating in?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Did Ms. Schenecker ever indicate to you that she did not want you participating in family counseling?
No, ma'am, to start, she wanted to go individually, I think, to probably set things up. Then it was just the two of us, and then we would bring the kids in.
Okay. And that was a plan that you were in agreement with?
Yes, ma'am.
And the counselor that was doing that family counseling, was that someone that you were also agreeing with?
Oh, the counselor herself? I
Yes.
thought she was the better of the two choices we were talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you described her style as a Dr. Phil type of style?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you went to counseling, did Ms. Schenecker participate in that counseling?
Yes, ma'am. As a family?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a couple?
Yes, ma'am.
When you received an email response to your email saying that you were back in queue, Ms. Schenecker responded, "Get home soon, we're waiting for you." Did you think that was an unusual response?
She had never responded like that before.
How would she typically respond?
There were varied things, okay. Sometimes there might not be a response.
So sometimes she wouldn't respond to you at all?
Ma'am, there were a lot of times, and I never really focused on whether she did or didn't. I didn't ever expect a response from anyone, and from many of the recipients, I never got a response. It was really more of a one-way communication.
Were you communicating still with the children at the time when you were overseas?
Yes, ma'am, I included Calix and Bo in my email on Friday, the 28th of January, telling them I was back from Afghanistan in Qatar. They're on the email.
And did you end up Skyping with them also, as you testified to before?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also have some video chats with Bo as well as the Skyping that you talked about?
I remember having the Skyping session on Wednesday, the 26th of January. Before that, I don't remember video sessions, but there was some online IM sessions with Bo.
When Ms. Schenecker had the car accident, did she ever tell you that she was having some pain from the accident?
She said there was some pain from the accident.
Did Ms. Schenecker ever indicate to you that there were any problems, or did you observe any problems with her relationship with Bo, or Bo talking back or doing anything like that?
I did not notice any myself, ma'am.
Along with the email response that Ms. Schenecker made when you emailed back in queue, Did she also email you information about Calix's grades at that same time?
Yeah, I remember seeing an email at some point about some grades.
Did she forward you an Edline report regarding how her grades were at that time?
Something along that line, yes, ma'am.
And was that in the same time frame as a response to you?
I believe it was in the same general time frame.
The email communication that you have in front of you, Your Honor, if I may approach.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you demonstrative of the month of December 2010. Ms. Schenecker would have been released from, or you picked her up from rehab on that first Sunday, is November 28th?
This is November 28th. This is the day that I would have picked her up from Winmore, yes, ma'am.
And when you start the email communications about counseling and the HIPAA release, what day does that begin?
Well, this email is dated the 6th of December. Hang on, let me go back to the first one. The first email was dated the Friday, the 3rd of December,
Okay, so she would have been home for about 5 days or so?
before this email was written.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then that email communication is Friday, and then there are several ones on that Friday?
There's 2 on Friday.
And are you at work during that time? Where are you?
I don't know if I was at work that day or not, ma'am.
Okay. The following communication is on what day?
Monday the 6th.
Okay. Were you home that weekend?
I don't know, ma'am.
Was it unusual at that time with your wife getting out of rehab for you to communicate with her via email?
No, ma'am, it was not unusual for me to communicate with Julie over email over the course of our relationship. I always felt it was better to have things in black and white for her, unemotionally, where she could read them over and over if she needed to, and that she could grab them at her leisure. As we talked previously, there were a lot of times when I wasn't home, either at work or somewhere else, where our schedules were a bit different. So I wanted to make sure that she had an opportunity to read and understand what I was communicating to her, rather than just trying to grab a phone call from time to time.
Did you have any problems communicating with her face-to-face?
There were times when I thought maybe what I was saying wasn't getting through, but that was the same with my kids. It's the same with my mom or my brother sometimes. Yes, ma'am.
Were there ever times when Ms. Schenecker would go off on tangents when you would talk to her?
Not that I recall.
Did she always have a memory of what you were telling her?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Were there problems with her memory or her understanding of what you were saying to her?
My observation was that there was some problems at times. Yes, ma'am.
Did you communicate to Dr. Obregon that there were problems with her memory being shot?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Who found the treatment location for Winmore?
Ma'am, I'm not sure. We both were actively looking over the day and a half after the car wreck. I was on the phone and the internet back at the house. I assume Julie was on the phone and internet at the hotel where she was. I'm not sure who exactly found Winmore.
But you both were looking for a location?
We both were, yes, ma'am.
When you described to Dr. Obregon about the relationship between Calix and Julie, you talked about some self-esteem issues. What can you tell me about that?
I believe I communicated to Dr. Obregon that things that Calix was identifying and verbalizing in Julie were things that Julie was predisposed to believe in herself.
Were those things that she expressed to you over the years during your relationship?
No, she really never expressed them verbally to me. I just, you get to know somebody over 20 years.
Okay. And when you were talking about, at that time, Julie Schenecker behaving immature, you talked about an incident where Calix and her mom, Julie Schenecker, are in the car together, and Julie Schenecker's trying to speak to Calix about something. Calix doesn't want to talk.
Yes, ma'am, I remember that.
Was that something that was communicated to you?
It was communicated to me by both Calix and Julie.
Okay. And that was something that you believe was kind of her egging on the situation?
That was my assessment of it. Yes, ma'am.
When you all participated in family counseling, was Calix able to participate in that as well?
The family counseling with Ms. Marsh?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Bo was there as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And were they both, at that time, participating in it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you monitoring at all Ms. Schenecker's either medication or alcohol intake after she came out of rehab?
I was not monitoring her medications. I never had monitored her medications. Alcohol, I think I was probably heightened as she came out of rehab, to look and see if there were some signs of maybe her drinking. But I wasn't monitoring, I wasn't monitoring any more than that. I think I was just heightened to it. I wasn't digging through the trash cans, let's put it that way.
Did anyone else speak to you about, during that time in your family, about, her continuing to drink alcohol during that time frame?
I believe there was some concern. I believe in a conversation at some point with my mom, there was a concern.
Okay. And when Ms. Schenecker, Julie Schenecker, asked for your mom to leave, you obliged and your mom left early?
What I did was communicate Julie's desire to my mom. My mom obliged, and she
Okay.
left. Which was good for me, because Julie was stating to me that she was going to reassimilate in the family. I was hopeful. That was good.
And then you were doing counseling after that?
Yes, ma'am. Very hopeful.
When you communicated with the children via Skype when you were overseas, do you remember an online chat that you had with Bo Schenecker, with your son?
I do remember one, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you remember at that time asking him if there were any dangerous situations?
I did, yes, ma'am.
If I could have one moment, Judge. No further questions.
Sir, you may step down.
Thanks, sir.
With that, members of the jury, I'll go ahead and send you for your lunch break. As I send you out, let's go ahead and set the return time. I'm aware of the time now. Let's have you back at, ready to go at 2 p.m. We know that back means the courtroom 53 in what is now the usual fashion. You know, I'll remind you that you're going to be taking this noon break and that we're in the course of trial, so those instructions apply. You're not to discuss the case among yourselves. You're not to discuss it with anyone else, not to allow anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. Once again, if anyone attempts to say anything to you or in your presence about this case, that's when you tell them you're on the jury. Tell them to stop. They persist. Leave them at once as soon as possible. Go to a bailiff. Tell them. They in turn will advise me. This case must be tried based upon the evidence presented in this courtroom, in your presence, in the presence of the attorneys, the defendant, and the judge. You're not to conduct any investigation on your own, not to visit any of the places that may have been described in the evidence, not to read nor listen to any reports about this case from any source whatsoever, not to speak at all with attorneys, witnesses, defendant about any subject until your deliberations are finished, and not to do any sort of research, gather information about, or communicate about the case or the people or places involved to any means, including electronic devices. With that reminder of important instructions, we'll see you at 2.
All right.
Jury's exiting the courtroom. Anything from counsel before we take this lunch break?
Just perhaps as to scheduling for this afternoon, if we should bring Dr. Otto in, I know we have Dr. Myers, I imagine we have Dr. Myers.
Yes, Dr. Myers here.
He is, Mr. Udagawa has spoken with Dr. Otto, and he's on standby. Well, I guess what I'm requesting is some type of direction, if possible.
Well, he's available tomorrow morning.